YouTube can throttle us.
They can suppress us.
But they can't stop a text message.
At least 10 FBI employees just got fired for their role in Jack Smith's witch hunt investigation. But here's the bombshell nobody's talking about. They were secretly spying on Kash Patel and Susie Wiles when they were still private citizens. This was not just surveillance. This was weaponization of the deep state against Trump's inner circle. And what we're discovering now about the extent of the operation, it'll shock you. Now, this affects every single American who believes in constitutional rights. You have to understand, the FBI was literally spying on private citizens who would later become key Trump administration officials. Think about that for a moment. Your government was building files on people simply because they supported Donald Trump. If they can do this to Kash Patel and Susie Wiles, they can do it to you. They can do it to me. This is the same FBI that pushed the Russia hoax, the same bureau that raided Mar-a-Lago. And now we know they were building surveillance networks around Trump's future term members. This is police state behavior, and it reveals just how deep the swamp really goes. The fact that Biden had to pre-pardon Jack Smith tells you everything about how guilty that they knew that they were. Speaking of fighting back against corrupt systems, let me tell you about something that's changed my family's life. You see, for years, my wife battled chronic pain and anxiety from her diagnosis, endless doctor visits, treatments that didn't work. Watching her struggle daily, it broke my heart. The medical establishment kept pushing expensive treatments that failed her, just like the political establishment fails us. And then Jonathan Otto introduced us to red light therapy. Her pain vanished, anxiety lifted, energy returned. Now, this is not some pharmaceutical scam. It's actual natural healing technology that works. You see, red light therapy uses specific wavelengths to heal your body at the cellular level, reducing inflammation, improving circulation, boosting energy. So while corrupt institutions profit from keeping you sick and dependent, red light therapy empowers you to take control of your own health. Don't let the system control your well-being. And just like we're exposing FBI corruption, we need to expose medical corruption too. Check out the link, myredlight.com. It's linked below, and use the special promo codes that have been set up just for you for the exclusive bonuses. But the surveillance gets even worse. They weren't just collecting phone records, they were recording actual conversations between Susie Wiles and her lawyer. That's attorney-client privilege being shredded by the deep state. And here's the kicker. This all happened in 2022 and 2023 when Trump wasn't even in office. They were building cases against private citizens for the crime of supporting Donald Trump. The paranoia and corruption, it runs deeper than we ever imagined. Obama's deep state coup exposed. He knew the Russia hoax was a total lie. He knew Trump was innocent because his cabal goons, Brennan, Clapper, and Comey, orchestrated the whole treasonous setup to crush the people's president. They all spied.
Got a peek inside Obama's black book, and it turns out Barack knew the Russia hoax was a hoax all along, but pushed it anyway to sabotage the Trump presidency. DNI Tulsi Gabbard declassifying pages and pages of documents, showing Obama's intel guys briefed him just weeks after the 2016 election that the Russians didn't actually sway the election. Quote, "We assessed that Russian and criminal actors did not impact the recent U.S. election results. Criminal activity also failed to reach the scale and sophistication necessary to change election outcomes." But Obama just couldn't accept that. So he and his staff instructed intel agencies to cook up new reports to support Russia collusion. Quote, "After the meetings, Clapper's executive assistant emailed intelligence community leaders, tasking them to create a new intelligence community assessment per the president's request that detailed the tools Moscow used and actions it took to influence the 2016 election. Tulsi Gabbard described what she found as a conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people. And she says the people involved should be prosecuted and has made a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. We knew Hillary created the dossier, and now we have proof that Barack was calling the shots, and the documents to prove it.
And that is only the beginning. That's the preface. This allegation about Obama's deep state sets up the segue to specific examples of how Democrats weaponized intelligence agencies. Chicago One Ray calls it treason. Democrat whistleblower told the FBI that Schiff okayed the leaking of classified intel to hurt Trump. Cash in 2022, Adam Schiff is the worst criminal in Congress in 250 years. There is statute of limitations on conspiracy.
Schiff is the worst criminal in Congress in the last 250 years. And what broke that we're going to talk about right now is Adam Schiff met with a whistleblower. Adam Schiff went to the podium day after day after day saying, I know nothing about this. We're not going to discuss it. We're going to protect it. And then Adam Schiff, led the prosecution of the impeachment trial in the Senate of President Donald Trump. Talk about someone who was conflicted out of the game because he was part of the hoax that brought Charmella in, manufactured that false accusation, and then peddled it out to the world. And he continued, not surprising, he's lied about almost everything in his life. But now he lied just to set up a presidential impeachment. The guy that found and manufactured the evidence with Charmella was the prosecutor in the case against the target of the investigation. That is the ultimate, from a prosecutorial standpoint, conflict of interest. But he knew what he was doing, and he thought he would never get exposed. And I think thanks to, I think it was John Solomon and his fantastic reporting, we now see what I've been saying for years, that I thought he met with him for sure, and it will come out, and it now has.
Now, that was in 2022. Little did he know, he was already being targeted after the hearing about Schiff's alleged leaks. We'll pivot to the burning question. Everyone's asking, when will we see consequences? Treason is the word of the day. When will there be an arrest? President Trump posting this on his Truth Social just a few days ago, just to remind us all.
You're referencing that I released, declassified and released, spells out in great detail exactly what happens when you have some of the most powerful people in our country directly leading at the helm, President Obama and his senior-most national security cabinet, James Comey, John Brennan, James Clapper, and Susan Rice and others, essentially making a very intentional decision to create this manufactured, politicized piece of intelligence with the objective of subverting the will of the American people, who in November of 2016 delivered a historic victory to President Trump, defeating Hillary Clinton. And President Obama and his team, their goal was to essentially not accept the decision of the American people and to use this manufactured, politicized intelligence as a means to enact what would become essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. You have gone into great detail over these years of what the effects of this document and this decision have resulted in. Obviously, a years-long Mueller investigation that cost taxpayers almost $40 million, 2 congressional impeachments, endless smears and attacks against not only President Trump, but his family. He had senior members of his team who were investigated, some arrested and jailed. We had heightened and increased tensions between the United States and Russia. The list goes on and on about the consequences of President Obama and his senior cabinet members politicizing intelligence once again, and I say these words very clearly, to enact what was essentially a
years-long coup. Juanita Broderick, DNI Tulsi Gabbard declassifies the Russia hoax, names, exposing Obama's conspiracy gang, including these and many more. Comey, Clapper, Rice, all of them. President Trump, of course, posting that to Truth Social. Ed Krasenstein, Trump-appointed Judge Eileen Cannon, just blocked the release of special counsel Jack Smith's report into Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents, saying they're covering up the cover-up. Andrew Weissman, of course, very upset that Cannon blocked his friend Smith's report regarding the bogus documents case, and Andrew is especially upset that Cannon may have set up the prosecution of Smith.
Can I just focus on another piece
Absolutely.
that I think is going to get her reversed, which is she basically comes out and says that Jack Smith violated or all but violated her orders. An incredibly dangerous thing to say with this administration, because they are probably looking this going, oh, can I charge him
Right.
with violating that? She knows what she's doing. And what's her basis for saying that? She's saying, one, I determined that he was invalidly appointed. What she fails to know is every single judge who has had that issue has found it the opposite. And she is the only judge who has said that. So she gave a ruling for Donald Trump that isn't highly questionable. Two, while she points out that it was on appeal, she makes it sound like Jack Smith appealed it, but then decided, I'm just going to drop it. No, he dropped it because Donald Trump was elected and the case couldn't go forward because you can't charge a sitting president. So it's not that he dropped it because he thought that she was right. And then third, and this is the kicker, she is saying that it's outrageous that Jack Smith, in spite of what she ruled, continued to compile a report. That report is an internal document to the executive branch. It is a report under the rules by Jack Smith to the Attorney General. Period. The end. I'm sorry, it's she to.
Weissman's anger about Cannon blocking the report leads perfectly into showing how Trump supporters view her as a hero worthy of the Supreme Court. Nick Sorter, huge Judge Aileen Cannon blocking the release of Smith's report on President Trump as the left attempts to use it to smear Trump. This was a witch hunt. Trump should really consider nominating Cannon to the Supreme Court if Alito retires. Cannon blocking the Smith report sets up the explosive revelation that Flynn and others are now demanding full accountability. Another word, treason, on your screen there. Hold them all accountable. He was quote tweeting this, tagging Donald Trump's post on Truth Social. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard calls out every single member of Barack Obama's national security syndicate, John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, Susan Rice, each deliberately and maliciously falsifying intelligence as a means to overthrow the United States government in 2016, 2020, and 2024. Quoting DNI Gabbard, the most powerful people in our country were directly leading at the helm under Barack Obama and his senior national security cabinet, Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Rice, essentially making a very intentional decision to create this manufactured, politicized piece of intelligence with the objective of subverting the will of the American people who in November 2016 delivered a historic victory to Donald Trump, defeating Hillary Clinton. Barack Obama and his team's goal was essentially to not accept the decision of the American people and use this as manufactured, politicized intelligence as a means to enact what would become essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. You've gone into great detail over these years about these effects in the document and the decisions they've had. Now, Flynn's call for accountability transitions perfectly to Senator Blackburn, revealing the shocking scope of the FBI surveillance. She posts that we now know the Biden FBI went after Kash Patel and Susie Wiles' phone records when they were still private citizens. This is why we need hearings and prosecutions. There was no line unelected woke bureaucrats under Biden weren't willing to cross. Her revelation about the targeting of private citizens gives us the setup to dive deeper into exactly whose records were subpoenaed. Biden's FBI subpoenaed Patel and Wiles' phone records during the federal Trump investigation. Special counsel Smith obtained the records during a federal probe into 2020 election of classified documents. Parler app reports say FBI obtained phone records in 22 and 23 related to Patel and Wiles, who were private citizens.
FBI Director Kash Patel out with an allegation that the prior FBI obtained his phone records, and not only his. What can you tell us about that?
Brett, this has been breaking in the last hour or so. We are told that, according to Kash Patel, the FBI director, the prior bureau leadership obtained his phone records and phone records to current White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles back in 2022 and 2023. This eventually led into the Jack Smith special counsel investigation into then former President Donald Trump. We're told that some of these records are just toll records, which don't have specific information other than times and dates. They don't have the actual content of calls. But two sources in the FBI say that Susie Wiles' attorney agreed to be recorded by FBI agents in 2023. She did not agree. We've reached out to her for comment. FBI Director Patel, in a statement to Fox News, calls this outrageous and deeply disturbing. And I will add, Brett, that we are told at least 10 Bureau employees have been fired just today over this incident, with more potentially to come. Brett?
Okay, we'll continue to dig into it. David Spun on Capitol Hill. Thanks.
More firings to come. You know, firing isn't enough. I mean, we need criminal prosecution. Now, these revelations explain exactly why Biden may have rushed to preemptively pardon Jack Smith and his team. Just when you thought the Democrats' treasonous perfidy couldn't be worse, it got worse. Now you know why Biden's autopen pre-pardoned Smith and his fellow conspirators. Biden's FBI was spying on their future FBI Director Kash Patel and Trump's future Chief of Staff. The pre-pardoning scandal sets up the breaking news that Patel is now taking direct action. Patel fires more FBI employees linked to Smith's Mar-a-Lago documents case. The firing spree leads perfectly to the stunning revelation about just how many people were being surveilled. When special counsel Jack Smith was investigating Trump and people in his orbit, he ended up surveilling then private citizen Patel, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. So at least 10 FBI employees who were involved in the special counsel Jack Smith investigation into Trump's classified documents case have been fired following a Reuters report on subpoenas for phone records of FBI Director Kash Patel and White House Chief of Staff. The headline right there from CBS News, at least 10 FBI staffers now fired. So Kash Patel, he's the FBI director now, and he's cleaning house. His firings are only the beginning. The same people who spied on him are now answering to him. The hunted has become the hunter. And the deep state operatives who thought they were untouchable are discovering that justice has a funny way of coming full circle. This is what accountability looks like, my friends. And this is exactly why Trump won in a landslide. Americans are sick of the weaponized government spying on patriots. These FBI firings prove that elections do have consequences and the deep state's reign of terror is ending. Kash Patel is not just cleaning house, he's sending a message that this kind of surveillance state behavior will not be tolerated in Trump's America. The same criminals who built cases against innocent Americans are now facing the consequences of their own actions. This is justice, this is accountability, and this is just the beginning. So do you think every FBI agent who participated in the surveillance operation should be fired or prosecuted? Let me know in the comments. And while you're there, check out the Next News merch shop to show your support for real journalism that exposes deep state corruption.
The system controls information. Information control is power. I want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.